Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the session again. So we were about to start the last topic, that is EF code rules for RDBMS. Basically, these rules are actually a set of governing rules and regulations for any software to be claimed as relational database management system software. For example, if I have a company and if I want to say that I'm going to release a product or a software for a database management system for storage of data and for accessing of data in a efficient manner, then my software should satisfy these 12 given rules. But one point to be remembered over here, all 12 rules cannot be satisfied by any of the given RDBMS software. It's almost impossible for any company to follow all the standards, but most of them they should be there. These are set of guidelines. They are not strictly uh, they are not very strict stubborn nature type of rules and regulations. Those are not certain protocols. Those are just guidelines. So what are these rules? EF Code was one of the authors who proposed actually 13 rules labeled from 0 to 12, and he said that any software which satisfies these 12 rules is a good software. Okay, so what in the if you go through this PPT, in the notes section you will find more detailed explanation for each and every point, but we'll quickly go through those points one after the other. Now, what is the rule 0? Rule 0 says that if a relational RDBMS software is to be released by a company, then it should be able to store the data in terms of relations. In terms of relations. Relations are nothing but the schema of the tables. Okay. So first and very first rule says that whatever software is being developed for relational database management system, it should be able to store the data in terms of relations, in terms of tables. Now, if the relational facility is available, then only it will be called as relational RDBMS, relational database management system. Otherwise, it will be called as RDBMS software. The second rule or rule 1, that was rule 0. Now rule 1 says that it is concerned regarding information rule. It says that all the information in the database is to be represented in terms of one and only one way, that is in terms of tables. In rule 0, we said it should be in terms of relations. Relations, I said it is the schema of the table. Okay. Now, whatever information is being saved inside those schema headings, then that particular information should be saved in terms of tables. Okay. Third rule says that there should be guaranteed access rule. Guaranteed access rule means whatever we are saving, that saved data should be able to be retrieved. It's common sense. If there is any piece of information, if that piece of information is not able to be accessed back, then what is the purpose of storing it? Now, when it comes as accessing of that data, to access the data, first and foremost priority is that how do you identify the data? For example, if I'm trying to say that I'm accessing a class, certain class. If I don't know what is the pin numbers in that class, student's pin number, can I access or trace that students? No. Similarly, if you don't know what is the primary key in the table, we cannot access any piece of information stored in that particular data table. Okay. So third rule, that is guaranteed access rule, says that whatever data is being there saved, it should be accessible. There should be guaranteed access rights to that particular data. Now, rule 4, that is rule 3. We are starting from rule 0 onwards. Okay. else I'll just read out rule 3 itself. Okay. Rule 3 says systematic treatment of null values. As I said earlier, null values are those column values whose data was missing. For example, ask you, if I give you a feedback form and ask you, tell me what is your parental income. Most of them they will mention it, but some of them they will think that why should I mention it to sir? What he is going to do with my parental income? So certain things are there which will be asked, but those things will not be entered by normal user unless and until those are made as compulsory. Now when the data is missing, what should be there in that particular column? I cannot leave it blank. Blankness cannot be accepted. There should be something which says that the data was missing. To represent that data was not entered is missing, and the blank should be filled with some default value. The default value is over here called as null. The default values are null. Okay. Whenever we write null in a particular column, that column cannot be compared with any other column value, because if there is, the null itself was used for replacing the blankness, to fill the blankness. Now when originally it was blank, can it be compared with any other value? No. So we have to systematically treat the null values. Now, for example, if I keep the parental income as null, can I say, is there any salary with the label as null? Or I can say salary is zero, because parental income is there. Income is budget, is money, right? So money should be in terms of numerical figures. If I say zero, it's okay. But if I say null, then it doesn't make any sense. So you have to think for a while. Should there be a null keyword over there, or there should be some value to be replaced for that null? Actually, null was used for replacing the blank. Now we are thinking what should be used for replacing the null so that the data looks good. Fine, getting my point? So rule 3 says there should be systematic treatment of null values. Definitely all null values cannot be replaced with some dummy values, but there are certain occurrences where we have to replace this null with a corresponding default value. Okay. Now, whatever data is there, it's going to be huge amount of data in the database. For example, your students' result data analysis. This particular college, there may be around 3,000 students studying or 800 students studying. For 800 students, there are regular examinations, there are backlog examinations, there are 6 subjects or 3 practicals. So that's a huge number of values. If huge amount of data is there, there should be some piece of table which should act like a index of the entire database. That index of the entire database is called as catalog. For example, if you go for purchase of any type of equipments or any type of home appliances, the shopkeepers will show you a brochure or a catalog which will contain different list of items with their corresponding prices and their corresponding specifications. Similarly, we have lots of data stored in our database. What is the first table, what is the second table, what is the third table? That description will be there in the catalog. So there should be one catalog which should be actively online used. Online in the sense not based on internet, based on the internet. Okay. Suppose the database is built up of networks. We have seen various data models, right? One of the data models in the RDBMS was network model. If it is network model, it should be online. Online means it should be available. Fine. The rule 5 says comprehensive data sublanguage rule. Comprehensive data sublanguage rule in the sense the data is stored in the database, right? We are accessing the data. What if I want to manipulate the data? If I want to change the values in the data, I should interact with the database through some language. So that language should be composed of such commands that those commands should be easy to understand, easy to interpret, and easy to work. They should be comprehensive in nature. Okay, so those commands should have certain beginning, and at a particular point when the command is perfect and all the results are good, we should be able to commit at that moment that these values are good enough and to store permanently. But at a time, if we don't want the values to be permanently stored, we want to undo whatever we have done, then that undoing operation, sometimes called as a rollback, should also be possible. So whatever data is being saved, that data, the RDBMS software should contain certain programs which should be able to have certain sub-language rules, that those languages should have these three characteristics. They should have some beginning of the command. If the command works perfectly and the results are good enough, we should be able to save it through a commit. Or else, if the data is not good enough, it should be able to be rolled back. Okay. Sixth rule says view updating rule. View updating rule means, as I said, if I log in, if you people log in for your results, you will get your own result. But if a faculty logs in, they will be able to see the result for those subjects which they have taught, but not in terms of marks, but in terms of number of students or percentage of students who have passed in that particular subject. How many have passed, how many have got backlog, with what percent students have got more than 70, with what percentage, how many number of students have got more than 80 marks. Like that, we'll get a record of the students. So if I view the database, I'm going to get a different view. I'm going to get a different figurative view. If you log in, you will get a different figurative view. That particular concept is called as view generation. The data, as database developers, we will write different commands which will give different views for different people. So let us imagine if I thought that, while suppose if I'm getting a view wherein I can see the result of each and every student, and I am able to track it. Now, I being the evaluator of the subject, I being the teacher of the subject, if I see that a particular student has got wrong marks, the marks have been entered incorrectly, I want to correct it out. I will correct my view. Whatever was generated for me, I am correcting in that view. That correction should directly go into the database and correct the actual table that is holding the data. Okay. Personally, I'm updating my view, but in the background, that view is going to update the actual table from which the view was generated. Clear? So that was rule 6. Rule 7 says high insert, update and delete. High level insert, update and delete means if the RDBMS software is to be built, it should be such we should be able to insert huge amount of data, delete the data which is existing, and delete whatever we wish to delete. So these three things should also be there in the database. Eighth rule says physical independence. Physical independence in the sense, for example, now on this laptop, if I'm installing RDBMS software, this laptop is 64-bit configuration laptop. Now if I'm shifting from 64-bit configuration to 32-bit configuration, should it impact my data which is already saved? It should not. Actually, it should not. But it may be a chance that whatever 64-bit dependent data was there, it may be lost because of we are shifting to a narrower 32-bit. Okay, from a narrow, if you go for a broader one, there will not be any loss of data. But from a broader one, if you are going for the narrower one, then there is a chance of loss of data. But practically, the RDBMS should take into that as consideration, and it should organize the data, restructure the data such that it should not lose any information. That's called as physical independence, data independence. Rule 9 says logical data independence. Suppose today I'm thinking that the student table should contain the pin number, name, marks 1 to 6, total and average. Tomorrow I'm thinking no, not just average. We should have CGPA to be credits to be included. That means I am going to add one more column to the data. I'm changing the logical design of the database. If the logical design of the database is being changed, still whatever data was there prior to it, should it change? No, it should remain as it is. Whatever new things are being added, it should be going for adding of it. So if the database is such that if any modifications are done to the logical schema, it doesn't impact on the actual data, then that particular RDBMS is called as logical data independent RDBMS software. That's rule 9. Rule 10 says integrity independence. Integrity independence in the sense, today I'm having suppose Oracle software installed on my system for database. Now tomorrow I think that there is a plugin in Oracle which is very good enough. That plugin should be used for generating of reports from the database. Now Oracle Forms and Reports plugin was added to the Oracle database. Imagine. Should it impact anything back onto my database? No. My database should remain as it is. That means whatever I am integrating to my existing database, it should not impact the actual data. If the RDBMS software is such that even for an integration, there is no disturbance in the already existing data, there is no corruption of already existing data, then that RDBMS software is called as integrity independent software. Rule 11 says distributive independence. Suppose the RDBMS software is going to contain huge amount of data. Let us say Microsoft company's data. They have various branches in India, in USA, in Singapore, and all worldwide. Can the database be stored in one single location? No. It should be distributed throughout the world, right? Local branch will have their own data, but all the data should be gathered together into a single repository for having a common access. So if that data is brought into a single repository, can it hold throughout the world's data into one single server? No. So what they will do is they will make a linkage catalog in the central server. That catalog will tell where is this piece of information, where is that piece of information, where is Bombay's piece of information, all that concepts. So using that linkage, the data will, the queries that are coming for the central server will be redirected to that specific server. This is the reason why if you type in your browser google.com, it will, after searching, it will get converted into www.google.co.in. Actually, you are trying to access the USA's google.com server, central server. The Google server has analyzed that you are accessing through India, so it will redirect to its local server, which is there in India. Okay, so this distribution, if the distribution is done without making any impact on the user's input data which is already stored, then that RDBMS is called as distributed independent RDBMS software. Rule 12 says non-subversive rule. Non-subversive rule means it's like subversion in the sense, if you have purchased Oracle software, RDBMS software, there are various versions in it. You have taken the 11th version, let us imagine. Now, with this 11th version coming in between, if you have built the entire database using the 11th version, and suppose tomorrow the company says, no, you have to go for the 12th version of Oracle database. Now you are going to make a upgradation from 11th version to 12th version. Should whatever data you have saved already, should it make a smooth progress back into the upgradation, or should it get corrupted just because you are making an upgradation? Actually, it should allow for a smooth upgradation, right? Without actually corrupting your actual data. Same thing, if the data RDBMS software is good enough that if a version is being changed or subverted, then that particular change should not impact in your database. Okay, so these 12 rules have been given by EF code. I hope these 12 rules I have explained in short. And is there any doubt in these 12 points? They are not having much logical implication behind. They are just theoretical points to be remembered and memorized. Is there any doubt for you people in this particular topic? Okay, fine. Thank you, Ravikesha. Thereby, we have finished the first unit. We'll go through the first unit. I hope the slides are available with all. From Monday onwards, we are going to start with our IT subject. In that, we'll try to see as many as programs possible, and we'll try. I'm not going to go for the theoretical matter much because we are lacking a lot. We'll be going with the practical programs. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm closing off the class now.